era, you had coins of certain sizes, and then what's worked out in between. Well, you had to have some kind of token coinage, or you had to have some kind of paper credit or whatever. It was rather cumbersome. And if you look at it today, it's even worse, because what's the value of a American Liberty silver dollar, 1 ounce, the coins that are now coming out of the mint under the 1985 Act? Well, it's what, somewhere between 35 and 40 Federal Reserve notes, right? So your $1 silver piece is worth 35 of these other things in the market. Well, that's not going to be too useful in the supermarket. Well, it will be later. I mean, when the hyperinflation sets in, it'll be very useful. But right now it isn't. So it'd be a little, or the American Eagle gold coin. What are those? They're probably close to 2,000 now, 1 ounce of gold in coin form. So if you look at the coinage system that we have, once again, because Congress, because they're the ones supposed to be doing the coinage here, because Congress has not kept up to date with our problem, we have a coinage system that really is not workable. The states can't coin money, so we couldn't see any reform there. But the states can make gold and silver tender in payment of debts, and they can certainly use these electronic systems. The Supreme Court already ruled on that twice, not electronically, but they ruled on the right of the state to have an alternative currency of its own. So we don't have to worry about the legalities of the thing. And if that were done, let's say it were done in Virginia, I wouldn't want to take some, I mean, Montana's kind of a backwater, people might not pay attention to it, but here's Virginia's right next to D.C., right? But Virginia does this. What do you think the influx of capital into Virginia is going to be? Virginia will be the only polity in the entire world that has a sound money system. And you don't think that other states that border Virginia might say, oh my goodness, it would be to our advantage to pick this up too, because we have cross-border trade, right? And on it goes. And of course, this particular system, if you use the electronic system, international trade. Because everybody can be tied in through the internet to it. That's the way it runs. So as I tell these legislators, I say, listen, 30, 60, 90 days after the statute, you tell me how fast you want it done. We can have this up and running. And what it would mean is that the average Virginian, because you'd have to tell them to do this, every Virginian would get a debit card, and he'd be told how he goes on the internet and signs up for this thing, and how he transfers funds from his regular bank account into this. All very simple. You don't force him. If he wants to do it, fine. If not, but he has to have the capability. And then the state simply starts taxing in the alternative currency and paying out from that tax fund to creditors of the state, first come, first serve, who ask for it. What do you think is going to happen? Those creditors are going to deplete that fund as fast as it is built up. And then the treasurer is going to come back to the General Assembly in Virginia and say, I need to expand the tax base here. And pretty soon, you're going to have the Commonwealth of Virginia on a gold-silver basis treating Federal Reserve notes as a foreign currency, because they may need Federal Reserve notes for something, right? And you'll have the economy of Virginia, of course, following along with this, because the state has given them the mechanism, and the state, of course, is a big player in the economy. A lot of money passed through in state finance. And now you've shown how it could work. And my view of the thing is, if people have two choices, a relatively sound currency here and a rotting vegetable currency over here, which one are they going to choose? Well, they're going to choose this one, of course. That's the reversal of Gresham's law. Right? Gresham's law says, what? Bad money drives good out of circulation. That's the way it's usually formulated. It's actually Aristophanes' law. I think it's in the play The Frogs. It goes back to the ancient Greeks. Gresham didn't invent it. But anyway, why is that true? Because if I have bad money in one pocket and good money in the other, and you're willing to take the bad money, what am I going to give you? The bad money, right? Think of Mommy with Jimmy, and there's Jimmy and Billy playing in the sandbox, and Billy's crying because Jimmy will not let Billy use one of his toy soldiers, and Mommy says, be fair, Jim, you know, let him use one of your toy soldiers. Which one of the toy soldiers are you going to give to the other child? The nice one that's beautifully painted, or the one with one arm that's broken off and the head that's twisted? What do you tell me? I mean, that's Gresham's law, right? It's at the kindergarten level of intelligence here. But it works the other way too. If I'm going to you to make a contract, I'm going to demand what? The bad money or the good money? I'm going to demand the good money, right? So we can reverse this whole system if you once put into play somewhere a significant player in the marketplace, has to be a fairly large size, that's using this good money, and we can force that through taxation. Start off with a certain amount of state taxation. Now Congress could do this too. You know, maybe I'm being facetious, but in principle, Congress could do this too. And I should think Congress would have more understanding of this problem. I mean, it's their power that we're talking about, it's monetary power. The difficulty I have with state legislators always talking to them is, well, you know, we can't do that. States can't do that. And I say, wait a minute, Article 1, Section 10, you know, we go through this little litany of constitutional principles. Then eventually the little light bulb comes on in the head. Oh yeah, I guess we can do that. And then there's a problem. Well, what is the 6 o'clock news going to say about me? You know, I'm a gold bug, and they're going to make fun of me and that type of thing. You get into the political problem there. But as a practical solution, I shouldn't say solution, direction, there is no solution. This thing is going to happen. We can't stop it from happening. Right? But as a practical direction for putting a floor under mitigating the damage, I'm willing to bet a stack of Cougar grants that high. This is the only way it can be done. If somebody can think of another way that doesn't involve Congress passing, you know, I keep thinking, I rack my brain. I say, if someone came to me and offered me some huge fee to write a statute to correct the Federal Reserve problem through the Federal Reserve, could I do it? No. I think that would be the short answer. I can't take the money. I can't do that. It won't work. There's no way we can correct that. The market has to correct it. And the market will not correct it unless it has an alternative to work with it. As, I mean, Archimedes, right? Isn't he the one who said, I have to give me a place to stand, and I can move the earth with my lever. We need a place to stand monetarily. We need the alternative currency. And the example, go back to Weimar Germany. Everyone remembers Weimar Germany, right? 6 months, June, July, to the end of November, they blew the currency out. An egg that cost 80,000 marks in June, because they had a lot of inflation during the war and immediately after the war, approximately 80,000 marks was like 1 trillion marks at the end of November. And the first week of December, the currency was gone. How did they survive? Because they had a whole slew of alternative currencies circulating in Germany from other European countries. From the United States, from England. England wasn't considered a European country. And people were using these and making contracts in them. So they had a kind of black price structure in alternative currencies. So when that mark collapsed, the entire economy didn't go with it. Sir?
Yeah, so you're assuming that we still keep the Federal Reserve, that states can create their own currency. Mm-hmm. But then, how about the banks themselves? Don't they still have to be a member? Either the state's going to have to create their own, like, state bank, or won't they have to be a member of the Federal Reserve?
Well, there would be a state depository to deal with this alternative currency, because the alternative currency system is not really banking; it's warehousing. All right, and what I anticipate would happen is that if I were writing a complete statute for a state, I'd say, well, look, we need to set up some private institutions that would deal in what used to be called real bills, 30, 60, 90-day banknotes based on real commodities, because that kind of puts an underpinning to the use of gold and silver. There's a lot of transactions you don't need to use the gold and silver if you have real bills. And those private institutions, I would imagine at some stage, they might also come into the depository, actually the loan function. See, the depository function is a warehousing function. The loan function is a different situation. And you can't have a loan bank which is paying on demand. The depository is obviously paying on demand, paying immediately, electronically. So you'd set up banks that were dealing with the 30, 60, 90-day real bills, and then you'd set up banks that would be, maybe those same banks would set up accounts that would be longer term. But you'd have to cut the fractional reserve aspect of the thing has to be cut out entirely. That's the devil in the details, as it were. You cannot lend short and borrow long for very long. And that's what fractional reserve system banks have always failed, because their notes are out there to be paid on demand. They don't have 100% reserve to pay those notes, leaving aside whether that's inherently fraudulent or not. I guess it wouldn't be if people were completely told about it. But the other assets that might be fed into that pool, they're not on demand. Who knows how long those assets may be until they're paid. And then the banks invariably get into these squeezes because they extend themselves too much. And there's only one way to get around that, and that's to prevent it in the beginning. So our problem is we've painted ourselves in, and I'll say we, I don't want to include myself. Somebody out there has painted me into a corner, and you as well. We're painted into this corner. And either we're going to go down with the Titanic, or we're going to get in a lifeboat and row away. And that's the difference between the Titanic situation and our situation. On the Titanic, they didn't have enough lifeboats, and they didn't have a way to build any more. We don't have enough lifeboats now, but we have 50 ways to build them. This can be done at the state level. And I don't say there won't be a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth economically, and a lot of people won't be very, very sorry that we put up this system and ran it as long as we did, ran into the ground. But that's not my problem. My problem, I'm the kind of the salvage yard guy here, right? You've brought me this mess, and you say, clean this up. This is the most I can do. Right? It's going to be trauma surgery. You got to lose the leg. Don't blame me. You shouldn't have been driving drunk. Oh, well, look, I know this, you know, I sound so pessimistic, but you know what the definition of a pessimist is? He's an optimist who knows the facts. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you all again for coming today. We have our third and final lecture will be in December. Details coming shortly. Just for one quick exposition, this is an 8 realis. This is a federal, well, there went a Federal Reserve note. Which one do you want? I don't know. So please give one more round of applause for Dr. Vieira.